Hey everybody, so today we're going to be coloring this cute Some Odd Girl stamp called Dancer. This is a clear stamp. It comes with the image, 2 accessory stamps, and then 2 words. And because it is a clear stamp, make sure that you either use a pink eraser on it to scrub it off and then clean it, or you can also, I cheat and I stamp it a few times with Stays On, and I call it dirtying it up, and then stamp it on some scratch paper, and make sure it stamps clear before I stamp it onto my piece that I'm going to be coloring on. So I've already stamped my piece onto my Nina 80-pound Solar White cardstock with Memento Tuxedo Black ink. So let's get started. Alright, so for my skin tones, I'm going to be using E21, E00, E000, and for the cheeks, I'm going to use R20 and R30. And this is just my favorite skin tone. If you would like to try a different one, head over to the store blog, and there's a list on the sidebar under labels that says skin tones, and there's a whole bunch of other choices that you can pick from. So I'm going to get started and start with my darkest first. I think I'll start down here on her legs. So I'm going to start with E21. And I'm going to lay that down where I want to have my shadows. So let's go around this dress. Down the back of her foot, on the bottom of her foot, and her little shoe is going to cast a little bit of shadow, so I'm going to put a little bit on there. And I think I'll get just the bottoms of her toes, maybe a little bit in each of these little, where her toes separate. And then also her shoe is going to cast a shadow on top of her foot, so I'm going to go ahead and just do a little bit right there. And then I'm going to grab E00. I'm going to turn it just a little bit here so I can flick away from me. It works a little bit better for me. So I always lay down on top of my E21 first, and I just flick out with my E00, and I'm touching the last color I always laid down, and that helps soften your line that you've already made. Let's go along her shoe. And then I'm going to go ahead and add a little bit of this color on this side of her leg, just to give it a little bit of a shadow there on that side. And let's get her toes. Soften this line below her shoe. And I've still got a little bit of a line, so I'm going to go ahead and go back over that just another time. Maybe flick out just a little bit more over here on this side. Okay, and then I'm going to grab E000. I'm going to go ahead and just fill that in. Get her feet. Okay, and then I'm going to go work on this other leg, so I'm going to again grab E21, and I'm going to lay down where I want some shadow, so I want it to be shadowed underneath of her dress. And her dress is going to cast a shadow here, and let's get the bottom of her foot, and just a little bit along each side of her little sandal here. Her little toes are showing over here, and just get this a little bit. And then I'm going to grab E00. And there's not too much area left on her foot right there, so I'm going to go ahead and fill that in. And soften my line, so I'm touching the E21. And I'm going to grab the E000. I think I'll go back now that this side's dried and maybe do a little bit more of my E00 on this side and soften it just a little bit more. It was looking a little patchy. And then I'm going to go over that with E000. Okay, I think that looks better. So let's go up here and do her arms and her stomach. So we're going to grab E21 and start where you want to be darkest. So she's got a little sleeve right here, so I'm going to go ahead and go along the bottom of the sleeve and the bottom of her arm. And then she's got a bunch of little bracelets there. I'm going to skip those. I'm going to do the bottom of her hand, but I'm going to do right beside the bracelet just a little bit. And then I'm going to say that this right here, little bunch of squiggly lines, is the inside of her hand. So I'm going to color that. This is kind of iffy on what that exactly is. It's so small you can't really see what that is. And then I'm going to go ahead and get this arm. So I'm going to go down the back side of her arm, right next to her body just a little bit. And then let's go down this side. And then I think I'll get the bottom of each of these little fingers. And then for her stomach, let's do her stomach along her skirt, along her top. And she's got a little patch of hair right there, so let's skip that. And then she's got this cute little indentation on her stomach, so I'm going to go ahead and give that a little shadow so it'll give it more definition. Okay, and then we're going to grab E00 and lay down on top of your 21. And this arm is pretty tiny, so that pretty much filled that all the way in. So we're not going to worry that we didn't get to E000, because it's pretty small. And then we're going to go get this side. Same with this one. I'm just going to go ahead and fill that all the way in. And we'll get her stomach. And if you get a little bit on a braid, that's okay, because her braid's going to be darker than her skin, so you won't see it after you color her. So let's go ahead and go up here and do her face. So again, I'm going to go back to E21, and I'm going to do her neck first. So I'm going to go ahead and get right here above her bodice of her shirt, and then go up the side of her little ponytail, and then I'm going to do the sides of her face. And I'm going to go do this side because I want it to look like it's rolling around to the side. And her hair is going to cast a shadow, so I'm going to go ahead and go underneath of that. And then she's got some little eye, it looks like a crease from her eye. I'm going to go ahead and go up the side of that, and the side of this one just a little bit. And her nose right here, I'm going to go underneath of her nose. I'm going to give her a nose by taking this E21 and just drawing a line like that. And let's get her little chin right here just a little bit. So that'll give her a little bit of definition for her nose right there. And then I'm going to grab E00 and I'm going to add a little bit of that. So let's go down here, and this is such a small area on her neck and her chest that I'm just going to go ahead and fill that in. And then I'm going to use my E00 to lightly go over my line that I just laid down for my E21. And just brush over the top of that, soften it up. Get this side. Under her nose, and then we're going to go right up the side of her nose like this. Because that's a pretty dark line, so you want to soften that up. Okay, and then I'm going to grab E000, and I'm going to just fill the rest of that in. So I'm going to go right along there and fill that in. And this side, you want to leave a little bit of white for her eye areas, and same for this side. So you don't want to go straight down. You want to kind of give it a little bit of a curve in there. And I'm not too worried that I have some lines showing, because I'm going to go ahead and go over it again after I put the cheek color down. So I'm going to go ahead and grab my cheek color, which is R20. And I'm going to put a little bit of that on each cheek. And then to soften it, I'm going to use R30. And just go right over the edges and the sides just a little bit. And then I'm going to grab E21 for this side over here. I'm going to give it just a little bit of dark again right here on the sides. And maybe a little bit down this side of her face. And I'm going to redefine her nose. Okay, and then I'm going to grab E00 and I'm going to soften that up. So I'm going to go right over my E21 I just laid down. Go over her cheek color. And since I'm going to go all the way around up here so I can soften that line on her forehead just a little bit more. Go over this cheek. And I'm going to again go over this side of her nose. I don't want that line to be quite that dark. Okay, and then I'm going to go over the whole thing with E000. Alright, so for her hair, I'm going to use reds this time. Brownish red, so it's going to be E09, E99, and E97. I'm going to start with my E09 first, and I'm going to add where I want it to be the darkest. So I'm going to start on this side over here where it kind of looks like she's got a little part right here. So I'm going to add a little bit of my E09 right here at the top. And then I'm going to add a little bit down here where it comes away from her face. And then she's got a little bit of hair that kind of pokes out down here. So I'm going to add a little bit right next to her cheek. And then for this little ponytail, again, I'm going to get right next to where it looks like it's touching her face. And then where each place of the ponytail where it looks like it folds back inside the ponytail like a braid, I'm going to go and put a little bit of this dark right in there. So each little crack, I'm going to give it just a little touch of this dark color here at the bottom. Okay, and then for up here at the top of her hair, I'm going to go ahead and get a little bit up here at the crown of her head. And I'm going with the flow of her hair the way I think it's growing. So I wouldn't color it in a straight line down like this. You want to keep going with the way the hair is. And right here it looks like it kind of dips back down inside and underneath. So I'm going to put a little bit right here where it looks like it's dipping in. And then she's got this little hair decoration right here, so I don't want to color that. But where it comes out of the hair decoration, I'm going to add a little bit of my dark. And then here where it wraps around again, I'm going to get right here on the side so it looks like it's curling over. And then this little piece right here looks like it's coming out from underneath this little part right here. And same for this one, so I'm going to go ahead and do that. And then she's got a little curly Q right here, so I'm going to get the bottom of the curly Q, and where it looks like it dips inside, I'm going to go ahead and add a little bit right there. And then she's got an earring right here, but she's also got some hair right in there, so I'm going to get a little bit right in there where the hair is, trying to miss the earring. Okay, and then I'm going to go ahead and grab the next color, which is E99. And I'm going to go over here on this side, and I'm going to brush right over the top of my E09 and add just a little bit more. You're going to do that all over. And get down here on her ponytail. Add a little bit of color on there. You're brushing over that line to soften it. This little curly Q a little bit. Go up here, do the crown of her head. And again, you're brushing in the direction that the hair would grow. And I think I might do this little curl right here just a little bit more with this color. Bring this up just a little bit. Like that. So I got more of an even highlight right through the middle right here. Okay, and then I'm going to grab E97. And E97, I know it's a smaller number than the E99, but it was more orangish. So I wanted to do that one last and use it for the lightest areas. And you're just going to go back over all your coloring and fill in all the leftover areas. Got a little curly Q on her hair right here. Going around that earring. I'll go up here and brush right over the top of this. And I'm brushing over the E99 too, so it's adding a little bit more of this light orange color over the top of that. Gives her nice reddish toned hair. I'm going to soften this down here on her little braid just a little bit more. So holding your pen up and down, I hold mine straight. I'm going to add a few little streaks in here. So let's add a couple over here on this side right here. And I'm just going to very lightly do a little flicking motion with my hand and just drew a couple of little streaks onto her hair. It gives her more of a natural. Oh, it just makes it look like there's actually some hair strands in there instead of just all flat. And we'll go do the same thing up here at the crown of her head. And I'm going further out than I did when I put it down the first time. Okay, and then we want to do the same thing at the bottom. So let's go ahead and get right next to this hair bow and add a few little streaks right on there. And maybe a couple right here in this little dip. And how about where this comes out from underneath? And I think I'll also add some E99 to that. So again, I'm just going to add my streaks. I'm holding my pen fairly straight, up and down, and I'm just flicking some lines on. Go ahead and get a couple down here, just a little bit, and maybe a little bit on this little curly Q right here. Like that, but see how it just adds a little bit more definition on there? Alright, so for her eyes, I'm going to use B37, B34, and B32. I'm going to start with B37, and I want it to be darkest up here where it's touching her lid of her eye. And I'm going to color right over this pupil area because it's kind of got some white patches in there, and darken it up. Get a little bit on this side. Same for this one. You're going to go right down, put a little bit over there, go over the pupil, and then add just a little bit on this side. Okay, and then I'm going to grab 34, and I'm going to touch down on my 30. Uh-oh. I evidently filled my pin up, and now I've made a big mess. So just one second. Alright, so what I've done is I've taken my colorless blender, and I've just very lightly touched out here on this little huge spot that I had. And I've kind of pushed it back towards my pupil. And it's not going to be completely white. It's got a little bit of a tinge to it, but I'm not going to start over. I'm just going to leave it like that. Okay, so if your pen is really wet like that, what I've done is I have taken the other end off the pen, and I've let it pressurize in the middle. And if you just do that for a couple of seconds, it'll be fine. So anyway, I've started back over with my... Oops. put the lid back on there. B34. So I'm just going to continue on to this side. So we're going to add a little bit of B34 over here. Luckily I was using a light color so it was easy to remove it. Otherwise I'd have to recolor the whole thing. So I add a little bit of B34 to both sides. And then I'm going to grab B32 and I'm just going to fill in the rest of my white down here. I just got a little overzealous on my filling of my pen, I guess, last time. Just like that. Doesn't she look cute? And I forgot to color her eyebrow right there, so I'm going to grab E99 and I'm just going to color that in. Can't have her going around with just with her eyebrow not colored. Alright, so let's go ahead and add some eyeshadow to her eyes too, and for that I'm going to use W5, W3, and W1. I'm going to start with W5, and I'm going to color right up the line of this. She's got a little line already on her eye, and I'm going to go over the top of her eyebrow, her eyelashes. Okay, and I'm going to do the same thing with this side, because see over here she's got a little line on her eye. So I'm going to color right next to that. And then I'm going to color over the top of her eye, over here to the side, just a little bit. And then I'm going to grab W3, and I'm going to color over the top of my W5. Just add a little bit more. Same for this side. And then I'm going to finish it up with W1. Add a little bit of eyeshadow right over the top of her eye. I think I'll round it up just a little bit more. It's looking kind of flat. Alright, so for her dress we're going to use BG 15, 13, 11, and then for the accents we're going to use Y 15 and 13. I'm going to start with BG 15, and I'm actually going to color this cute little hair tie she's got right here on her dress all the way in, and I'm going to do right up here on this one just a little bit, and then on her top I'm going to do the sleeves just a tad. And then I'm going to do right next to her hair and along the band at the bottom of her little top right here. And then over here it looks like her arm kind of shows a little bit, but she has a sleeve there, so I'm going to go ahead and color that in just a tad. So it looks like there's a sleeve on that side. Then I'm going to grab BG 13 and I'm going to fill in the rest of this hair bow up here. And then I'm going to do down here on her sleeve. And I may come back and darken that up just a little bit more after it's dried a little bit. And then we'll do the rest of her top. And I also left a little white band here at the top of her top for some yellow too. So you've got the bottom and the top. That. And then we'll go down here and we're going to do her skirt. And for her skirt, I'm going to start with BG 13. And I think I will start with this little section right here that she's holding. So I'm not going to color the whole thing in at once. I'm going to do it in little parts. So I'm going to do right down each of these cute little folds that this skirt has. And where it rolls over right here, I'm going to put a little bit. Then I'm going to grab my BG 13. And I'm going to go right over the top of those lines that I just colored. By coloring over them with this color, you're going to soften them. Then I'm going to grab BG 11 and I'm going to fill the rest of that in. Just go right over those lines again. And BG 13 to BG 11 is a little bit of a jump, so I'm going to go over it a few times and just soften that up. But you notice I'm not going all the way down here to the bottom, because by the time I get down there to color over it, I went over this top part, 2 or 3 times, and it's going to be darker. So by the time I color clear down here, that will be only one time of coloring over it, and it will be lighter than it is up here at the top. Like that. Okay, so then let's grab our BG15 again, and let's go do, how about this section over here? So I'm going to do underneath of her hand, because her hand's going to be casting a shadow. And then I'm going to get this little cute little folds is in the dress. And this one has a fold right here, so I'm going to go ahead and go right up that fold and down here into this little ruffle. I'm just going to color that all the way in. Okay, and she's also got a little fold right here, so let's go ahead and do on this side of this line and do right like that. Okay, and then we're going to grab our BG13 and go right over the top of those lines. I'm going to bring this line all the way down and connect it to this side right here. Maybe bring this up like that. And then I think I will go ahead and bring this down so it adds a little bit of shadow on the back side of this little ruffle right here. Okay. Then I'm going to grab my BG11 and I'm going to go again over the top of my lines. And I'm just getting all of them re-wet. Like that. Okay, then I'm going to go back over here again. I'm going to go right back over that. And soften that line. And I get clear over here to this side this time. Go over this line. Brush down here and go over this one again, softening that line even more. And we're going to go right down this one. Their second coat. Okay, so now I've left just a little, this one I got a little carried away and colored it in too much, but you can leave just a little bit of white on the top of each of these little humps right here, and it'll make it have an even more shiny area, or you can color it in. It's totally up to you. But that will give it more of an appearance of that it's got a little bit of a, it's reached the top of the little hump there and it's giving it a little bit more definition. Okay, so I'm going to just leave it like that this time, and then I'm going to grab my BG15 and I'm going to do this middle section of her skirt. So we're going to get each of these great lines along this little, I'm going to color the band on the top of her skirt yellow, so I'm not going to color that. We're going to go down each one of these and around these little bracelets. And we want to get some of these lines like that. Okay, and then we're going to grab 13, BG13, and we're going to go over those lines. And soften that up. And I think for this one I'll go right along the where it folds over like that. And I think maybe I'll go with this color right along this skirt where it would be falling on top of it and casting a little bit of a shadow on there like that. And then we're going to grab BG11. And let's go right along the edges and soften those lines up and getting them wet. Okay, but it still looks pretty, it's got a few lines there, so I'm going to go ahead and go back over it again. That was the whole, that's why I didn't color clear into the middle. That gives me a chance to go over it again, and it leaves that second, the white part will be a little bit lighter than the first layer that I laid down. You just continue to work it until you've gotten those lines as softened as much as you would like. You could also do, if you think you're taking too much blending in there, you could go over, do the tip to tip from the 13 to the 11, and that would give it a little bit of a lighter shade too. Okay, so let's go do, now that we've got the top of the skirt done, let's go work on some of these under pleats. So I'm going to start with my BG15, and I'm going to add some dark. Let's add a little bit dark on this one. There's a pleat. And then let's do the inside of this one. And let's do this one where it kind of looks like it's going up, but I want it to be lighter down here, so we're going to do the underside. Then how about right here for this one, and this, and I'm going to get just a little bit next to the skirt where it's looking like it maybe it's touching it just a little bit. And this one I'm going to say is getting more light because the light's coming from over here, so I'm going to leave that one for right now, and I'm going to do this one and this one. I'm going to get this one just a little bit. You just got to kind of pick and choose where you want to add some shadows and where you want the skirt to have some lighter areas showing. Okay, whoops, let's get right this one right here. Okay, and then I'm going to grab BG13. I'm going to fill some of these in. This one I'm going to make all the way dark. I'm going to make this one all the way dark. And I'm going to leave this, whoops, I'm going to leave this one and make that one whiter. Let's go down here and soften this one up. But leave a little bit at the bottom for my 13. I'm going to get right next to her leg a little bit with that one. And again, we'll soften this line, but still leave a little bit of room for our lightest color on this one. And this one we'll leave a little bit for our light. Let's color this one in. I'm just kind of going along and deciding as I color them which ones I want to be a little bit lighter and which ones I want to have a little bit of a darker space. And you could color each one individually, and then that way you'll see which ones are light and which ones are dark. Do each one separate each time. I just chose to do them all at once. Color the rest of this, the bottoms of these in. And this one we're going to be completely light, and this one's going to be completely light, and this one we're going to fill in. Oops. Okay, and I forgot this one right here, so let's grab BG13. I'm going to go right next to her leg, and I'm going to fill in the bottom of that pleat, or that ruffle, and then we're going to grab 13 and soften that just a little bit, and then fill it in with 11. Like that. But see how it's got some dips and some highlights in there? I really like how that skirt turned out. It looks really pretty. So let's do her shoes too. So I'm going to grab BG15 for her shoe, and I'm not going to color these little I'm going to call them feathers, or these little scallops inside. I want to color just the trim on the outside, so I'm just going to very lightly use the tip of my pen to color just the outsides of that. Same for this shoe. Just very lightly, because that's a little skinny spot. Try not to get it on everything. Alright, so for the shoes and the yellow accents on the dress, we're going to use Y15 and 13. I'm going to start with Y15, and I'm just going to, for the shoes, I'm just going to give each one of these little scallops just a little dab. Okay, and same for the shoe, just give them a little dab right where it looks like it's going into the pointy part. And then for her dress, I'm going to do right where it's touching her skirt and where it rolls over her hip. And then for her shirt, I'm going to get right where it comes next to her hair, and right there next to that little circle that's on her dress, or her top. Then I'm going to grab 13, and I'm going to fill that in. Just gives it a nice little yellow tone to match our paper. Fill in that shoe. And this shoe. Whoops, and it looks like I forgot to do the tip of her little shoe right here where it's sticking out from her toe. So I'm going to grab BG15 and I'm just going to color that in. I want her shoe to be completely colored. And that is it for our coloring of our girl. Doesn't she look cute? Let's add some glitter pen. Okay, so this month in your kit you're going to get a gold Spica glitter pen to color her earrings and her bracelets. So I'm just going to take my glitter pen. That's why I didn't bother coloring her bracelets or her earrings, because I'm just going to take my pen and I'm going to add it right on the top. I'm also going to get this little circle in the middle of her dress right there. Like that. And then I'm going to take a red glitter pen and I'm going to paint her toenails. So I'm just going to take my pen and color right over the top of that, and then where these ones don't look like they have a toenail but there's a little line there, I'm just going to lightly go over that little line and add a little dab of red. So it looks like we painted her toenails red. Then I'm going to take a black glitter pen and I decided I wanted to add a little bit of a shadow for her eyeliner. So I'm just going to go right down where this line for her eye was, and I'm going to go over the top. Same for this side. And it's where I put down the W5 pen. But it just adds a little bit of sparkly glitter on there, like she's got an eyeliner. And then I'm going to take my clear glitter pen and I'm going to add some to her hair. So I'm just going to go along and add some streaks of my glitter pen. I'm kind of following along where I put the E09 down. And this is totally optional. You don't have to put any of these on there. And you can't see it probably very well on camera. But in person, when you turn the card just a little bit, it adds a little bit of sparkle on there. So she's got, let's add a few. Like that up here in the top. I don't think you can see it. No, you can't see it. At least I can't see it on there. But it adds a little bit of sparkles on there. Just adds a little bit of glitter on the thing. And also I want to do, I want to shadow my image too. I forgot that part. With C0. So I'm going to take my C0 pen, and I like to go all the way around the outside of my images just to make them look like they're popping up off the page. So I'm just going to go ahead and add a line right around the outside of my girl. And you go right inside the earring here. And I continue around this side. And don't forget inside this earring. Oh, and inside of her arm. I'll do that. And here's a little patch in her bracelet, so I'm going to go ahead and do that. And all the way around her dress. Down here around her shoe. And back to the other side. Like that. So our girl is all done. So let's put our card together. Okay, so my girl, I'm going to, on my original card, I did some distressing around the outside of the girl, and I actually cheated. I put it back inside my Spellbinder's small petite oval die, and then I put it on. But if you do not have that, that's fine. You can just add some distress ink around the outside. It just won't have the white lip on here, or you could take a post-it note and try to post-it note the sides here and then do this distressing on there, but I'm just not going to stress over it. I'm just going to add some on. So I've got my antique linen, and I'm going to go ahead and use my sponge dauber, and I'm just going to pound it in there, and I'm just going to add a little bit on the side of my girl here. her just a little bit of some definition around here on the outside of my image. Or you could just skip this whole part and leave it white. Totally up to you. And I'm just going all the way around the outside. And I always try to put my sponge dauber down on my nonstick craft mat first before I scrub it onto the girl or onto my image. That way it kind of gets the ink started so you don't have a big spot on there that's not very even. Like I did right here at the side. So I'm going to try to fix that by going over it again here. But you're just going to add as much or as little as you want. Get as close to the girl as you want, as far as away from the girl as you want. And I added some distressing so it looks like she has a little bit of shadow there. And then I want my sentiment to stick out from my girl here. So I'm going to take it's my Stampin' Up! Cutting mat. It's hard so you can't cut through it, and I've got my X-Acto knife. And so I want my little saying is going to go on this side of the girl. So I'm going to add the line now before I put it together. And I'm just going to cut right along the edge of her skirt. And if you don't want to do the X-Acto knife procedure, you could just tape it onto the top or on the side, or you can move it around however you would like. But I wanted it to kind of come out from underneath of her little dress. So I'm just going to cut down to the bottom of this little ruffle. So it kind of goes from this little point here down to where it starts to curl over on this side right here. And you may have to cut it. It's kind of hard to cut when it's on camera. But you may have to cut it a couple of times, depending on how talented you are with this X-Acto knife. I don't usually use the X-Acto knife, so it's not working out very well. But you want to make sure it cuts all the way through. Now let's go ahead and add it to our mat and put some of this card together. Okay, so I got all my parts, and I'm going to go ahead and get started by putting some of these together. And I don't have to tuck anything behind anything, so I'm going to just start attaching it. But I think I'll maybe do a couple of these flowers first so that they can be drying while I'm using glue on some other stuff. So you've got 3 of the little brown flowers and 2 little light blue flowers. So the flowers go, there's a bigger brown flower, and then a medium blue flower, and then a small brown flower for one flower, and then there's a medium brown flower and a small blue flower for the other flower, or however you want to put them together. I'm just going to go ahead and add some liquid adhesive to the back of these. And you can offset them, put them straight, totally up to you. But I just want mine to have a chance to dry, so I'm going to stick them down now. Like that. Pick this one. That way they won't be wiggling around later when I try to put them on the card and it's not finished drying. Okay, so we've got those all done. We're going to put those over here and let those dry for a minute. And we're going to go ahead and assemble some of this stuff. Okay, so this aqua mat is going to go onto your white card base, and you can decide which way you want your card to open. I like mine to open from the bottom to the top, but if you like yours to open from the side, that is perfect. Okay, and we're just going to attach that. Okay, and then there's a little flowered piece that goes on next. Or if you like the back side, which is a bright yellow, you could put that. Totally up to you. Or if you bought the watercolor kit, you could trade papers and use some of the pages elements from that card kit on this card kit, because they will both fit inside of, well, this girl will fit inside the oval for that girl, but the Fairy Wishes girl was a little bit too big for the smaller one. Okay, and then we have this little black piece, which is next. And this one is even with the flowered piece. I'm just going to stick that on there. And then there's also some great little border pieces that are going to go on this piece. So I'm going to go ahead and run a little bit of tape along each side of my dot piece and attach them to the little scallop pieces first. Whoops. I'm going to try to line them up like that, and then I'll do the other side. Like so. Okay, and then that's going to go on here like this. Let's go ahead and add some glue so we can tape that down. And that's kind of more towards the bottom. And if your piece is a little bigger, you may want to trim it before you stick it on there. I try to get them all right, but sometimes it's a little bit off. So you may need to trim the sides if you want it to be sticking out past there just a little bit. Okay, and then we have our girl and our mat. So I'm going to go ahead and take my saying, and I've already stamped my saying onto my little flag here with a VersaFine ink, so I wouldn't have to do that when I was on camera. So I'm going to go ahead and just stick that in the hole I cut in her dress, and I'm just going to leave it there and then attach it permanently here in just a minute because I want to attach that to this mat. So I'm going to go ahead and put the adhesive on the back of my girl. And because there's no adhesive underneath of my little tag here, I can move it around after it's attached. Okay, so we're going to attach that like that. Okay, and then I also am going to use some pop dots on her. So let's add some of those to the back of my girl so she can be popped up off of the card. I love pop dots, what can I say? And since I put my little flag in there beforehand, I can see that it's not sticking off the side of my card. When I go to attach the girl, I can make sure to move her over as far as I want. So, and I know I want this piece like that. So see, that way I can see that, oh, whoa, it's sticking way off the card. And this way I can make sure to get it. Let's move her up a little bit so she's on the blue paper. I think right there would be perfect. And then you can see the blue paper down here, and she's kind of up a little bit so I have room for my flowers down here. So I've got my little dance thing down here, and now I'm going to just lift this up, and I'm just going to stick a little bit of tape runner right there underneath of it and stick it down like so. Make sure it's straight. And you could also put a pop dot over here if you wanted to, but I think that's enough tape to hold it down for right now. So then you're going to have your flowers, so I'm going to go ahead and attach those. And they, oh, I guess they're on this side of the card. They're going to be like this. A little bit of glue. Let's get a little bit of glue on the back of this one. And stick that one like that. You may give them a second to dry so that they're not popping off. But in your kit, you also got some of these great Bella Bling pearls, and they're awesome because they have a little pop dot on the back. They're all ready. You just peel them off and you stick them on there. So, ta-da! I love these. Like that. And so that is Dancer this month, so you can head over to the store, and by the time this video posts, for everybody's not on the private link, and see if Dancer in the search bar at the store will pull this card kit up. If not, check out this month's monthly kit. So thanks for joining me. We'll see you next time. Bye.